So you've got your website on Squarespace, and then you added a course because it's already there. I get it. My site's on Squarespace too, but I'm not putting my course there. We're going to go over why. Okay, so just like all the other videos, same lesson. I'm doing a brain dump. I've got video, audio, text, 3 distinct paths and activities. I'm going to run through trying to put that lesson in the Squarespace course creation tool. Squarespace falls under, it's complicated, not because it's a course platform, but because a lot of people use it as one. As a website builder, it works really well. Like I said, that's where I host mine. We're going to dive into why that lends itself to just being a content repository. It even uses the words chapter. I'm Dr. Catrina Mitchum, and I've been designing and redesigning courses online since 2009. So again, I can see the appeal of having everything all in one place. So I'm just in the back end of my website. Then under content and memberships, products, not products and services. That was a little confusing. I did click around a bit before I got here. Then you would click create, and then you create a course. I'm not going to go through that just because it's the same, naming things and all that kind of stuff. One thing I did not like was it automatically set up these kind of tiers, which I guess if you were actually planning on selling it through here, that might be helpful. It is something that will be live unless you have to go in and edit it. So I can directly get to the course that I have already started building through here. So if I click on that, it opens up and it gives me my course overview. I did pick this as a template. The nice thing about it is because my website is already set up on the back end with my fonts and my brand colors and things like that, whatever I chose was going to pull over as well. And so these are the things that I already have baked into the back end of my website. And so the navigation is also pretty easy. The course overview page will update as I update all of these things in the course content. So when I click on course content, it creates what has become a pretty standard view of your course at this point. So I do have a module. So next to course content, you can click and add a chapter. They call them chapters again in here. And so you can click on it, you can title the new chapter, and it will pull down here at the bottom. And then within each module or within each chapter, then you can start adding lessons, which I have already done here, but you get to title the lesson. It does have a custom URL, which is nice for giving out just lesson links. Something that did take me a little while to find is under this view, like kind of the lesson settings, there's also the video. So you can choose to show or not show the lesson video, and you can upload the video directly here. If you want a custom thumbnail, you can do that as well. And then you just change the status. So you can schedule things to come out for a certain time, or you can publish them right away. So I am going to go ahead and show you this new lesson. It's not titled lesson. All I have to do is click edit, and I come in and these are my options. It works just like the web page builder in Squarespace. And so I can add my video here. If I don't want a video up at the top, I can go change that. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And then I can add page content. And so I have some saved blocks already, so I could pull any of these blocks in here. I could add blank blocks. You get access to all of the same web page building pieces that you already have access to when you're building your website. So I am going to go ahead and add something blank so we can start trying to add pieces in here. So then I'm going to add a block, and this is where, kind of like in the other videos, this is where I start pulling in the pieces and parts of the lesson. So I have access to all the same web building pieces. So text, image, video, I can make buttons. If you're using Squarespace forms, you can include a form, accordions, shapes. You can sell products directly within the course. I'm not sure how that would be useful, but there's scheduling in here too. And then this is how different things are displayed. So you can do charts, you can add quotes, you can embed things, which is nice. You can have links out as well. So instead of popping things in willy-nilly, I'm going to go ahead and just show you what I have already built. Okay, so I'm going to pop in. I've clicked on the step 1 brain dumping. I'm going to pop in and we can look at what it's like to edit it. So for this lesson, I did turn off the video. So up at the top, we've just got the name of the module, and then the name of the step. I have my pick your path stuff in here that I've been copying and pasting in, and then I've got path 1. Now the nice thing about Squarespace is it also works on anchors. So I can go into a section, I can edit the section, and then down at the bottom you'll see an anchor link. So I did put this one in here. I put the hashtag path 1, and then I copied that and I put it in as a little link up here. So I'm going to scroll down and show you what that looks like. So for adding blocks, these are just text blocks that I added, and then I added the video in here, and then I added a form in Squarespace because I don't know if you've noticed or not, because you're just building web pages. You don't have access to any kind of submission block, right? Forms are the closest that we get here. So I put that there so we could play around and see what happens. The other thing I did build in was a button, and that button will have a link to the Get Shit Done book. So in my own course, I have an external Google Doc workbook where they do things. This will have the link out to that. So then I also built path 2. I did the same thing in terms of editing the section, creating an anchor link, and then pasting that up at the top. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So I've also got all the text in here. I have the video. I can very easily add the audio and the transcript, which I'm not going to do right now, but you can do it. So I would add the audio in here as an embed link. The other thing that is not available in Squarespace is a good audio input. So what I would do is I would just make a button here. So at least you do have that option where, probably stick it right here. Okay, so I've called it audio only. I'm going to attach the link to the audio file. So that does mean I'm hosting things outside of Squarespace as well. It's the same with my video. I embedded a YouTube video. I can add video in if I'd like. That is uploading. So if I do that, I can add a video up to 30 minutes if I want. I just elected not to. Okay. And then the Squarespace does automatically include a complete and continue button, so you don't have to build that piece in. The other kind of nice thing about Squarespace is up here on the right, and you get this view in the web builder too, you can do mobile view. And so while you may not have an app, you can make sure that things are in the right place in terms of everything being available on a mobile phone. Okay, so like I said, I did create that form, and then it took me a hot second to find it. So if you are doing it this route, under contacts, this is where I found the form responses that I did when I tested it as a learner. I'll go show you that in just a second. So if I click on myself, I can go to form details, and we can see the 2 different versions of the form that I've created. So I just put this is the dump. That is what I had done. I also clicked linked projects, and what it did was created a whole project for me for this particular learner, but I couldn't connect the projects, right? And so really it's just, this is not for courses, this is for smaller projects, but it is an option if the course is a smaller piece of a bigger project or some one-on-one work that you're doing, that is an option that you have. And then this is the other one. So in this one, I put the path to brain dump. And that's it. That's all. Like, I had created the project link just in case there was some way for me to respond. There isn't, right? I would have to email this person, this student, in order to do any kind of responses. So this was my workaround hack for trying to do question 1. I can't even track anything. I can track form submissions, but I can't really track the complete and continue. Like I had gone ahead and looked in analytics, and everything in there is about sales and my website. Nothing in there is about whether or not folks have made any progress. So it doesn't look like that is being tracked in here. Regardless, it fails question 1. Question 1 was, can we track something other than the complete and continue or the video watching? We can't even track that, but we also, even if we could, we can't track anything else. We can track the form submission, but that is very clunky, and I would argue not a good way to track whether or not someone is successfully learning in the course. Everything has to be external. So it failed question 1. Okay, so question 2 is whether or not we can design for multiple pathways. Because this is kind of like web page building and they make the anchors easily accessible, we can do that. It is not perfect. It is a workaround like all of the others, and so it gets a fail, but I'm going to give it a conditional pass because it does make it easy to go and access the anchors. So I'm going to show you what that process looks like. So this is me in preview mode. You can clearly see path 1, so I'm going to go ahead and click on path 2. And that was a little bit glitchy, but you can see it jumped me down to path 2. So I can come in here and do the work of path 2, press complete and continue, and then it takes me to the next module. All of this in here, other than the title, I didn't put this in here. These are things that Squarespace had automatically pulled in. So this would be another way that you could organize things. And that is kind of the nice thing about the sites, the platforms that are kind of web page based, is you do get a lot of flexibility in what you have. You just always have to end up going outside of the platform as well. Okay, and in terms of self-tracking, as a learner, I can actually see that I've made 20% progress, that this has been checked off. That makes me think that somewhere I should be able to see this. As the designer, is just absolutely not intuitive. And then you can see that I haven't clicked next on the step 2 looking backwards. So there is a handy little thing in the corner for that. Okay, so step 3 is how much friction is there between consuming the content and doing the thing. So again, this one fails because there's a lot of friction. I was kind of hoping that the form option would remove some of that friction, but it's just like in my own course where I'm going to have to click the Get Shit Done book. They're going to have to do the work in there. I would need to put my button in here for submitting feedback. So there is going to be a lot of stuff that happens outside of the platform. So it also fails question 3. Okay, so out of all of them, this one genuinely looks more polished, and that's probably because it's directly connected to my website, and so it seems seamless. I am going to go ahead and check the accessibility with Successible, the accessibility tool. Okay, so I'm going to run it on the homepage first, in part because this was just pulled together for me, and I want to see what happens. So image 1, missing alt text. This was an image pulled in by Squarespace. Image 2, missing alt text. Again, this is an image that I didn't put in there. I have some poor color contrast. So this one is a grayed out button. And then I have some link issues. Now, these are things that I have a little bit of control over on my website. And so I am going to go and fix those. I knew that the orange needed to be a thicker font. And so that's how I'm going to go fix it. And then this button link is pulling in my colors, and so I'm going to go play around with what will make that more accessible. There are several skipped heading levels. These are not, I can't control these heading levels, like I wasn't allowed to make changes to these, and so this format is a Squarespace issue. Okay, so now I am in the lesson building space, and I've got 20 issues, several alt text. And so I'm not even really sure what that is an image of, that it's picking up, but clearly there's something in the back end of Squarespace that is pulling as an image. The poor color contrast, these are all things that I expected. The links again, and those are things that I can go in and control on my universal Squarespace design choices. Some skipped heading levels. So I did not select this heading level. As you can see, I can't really change this at all. The heading levels that I skipped was heading level 2. I did make this heading level 3, this path 1. And so I will make that 2, run the accessibility check again. Okay, so the only problem that we have is heading step 1, but this is not a heading level that I can change. I am guessing that this heading up here also is a heading 1. I I can't control those things. Okay, so I've run this Successible, the accessibility tool, on top of the student view of things. And I just have the same image issues coming up where I don't actually have an image there, so I'm not sure what's happening. The poor color contrast, again, I can't control button 1 or the non-text element, but I can go in and fix. These are website level issues. I can go in and fix those. And then for the headings, it's still that multiple H1s. And again, I don't have control over that one. If you would like to try Successible out for yourself, the link is in the description. So, is your course an extension of your website? Or does your website exist to sell your course and other services? Because Squarespace was built for web design. And so if your course is one small piece of a bigger online presence that you have, and your students are there for a resource library, then Squarespace can do that really well. You can build a beautiful resource library in Squarespace for your clients. That's what I would use the course space for. But the inability to have any activity or track any activity in any meaningful way, or even in any basic way, makes it harder to think about this as a place to put an actual course. I know that I've used kind of a web design tool in a course space where I have my own course. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out now. But the difference is I can still see how my students are doing in that course in other ways, right? They go off platform, yes, but there are other things built in that let me know where they are in the process. Making sure that your students are engaged and learning is about triangulating data, right? So having lots of different data points, and Squarespace isn't giving you enough data points. So if you want a course where you can have data points where you're tracking how students are doing, what they're learning, how they're engaging, then Squarespace might not be for you. But if you are building just a resource library to send clients to when you need them to understand this, or when you need them to do this piece on their own, the Squarespace Course Space isn't bad for that because it's good at holding information and it does make it easy to navigate around. If you're trying to decide if you're even ready to choose a platform, I have a quiz for you. It's in the description. And it is, am I ready to choose a platform quiz? Next week, I'm doing the same lesson, the same 3 questions to test the platform. And the platform is going to be YouTube and Canva. Yes, we are getting a 2-for-1 next week. If it's not there, it will be there next week.